Hey guys, my name is Adam. I go by A-Frame on Twitch, and this is a general overview and marathon submission video for my speedrun of X-Men 2 for Sega Genesis. Through the run, I plan to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and why I think this is a good speed game. So let's get started. The first thing that's unusual about this game is that you can't choose your starting character. So you just keep resetting until you get Nightcrawler. So I'm going to start the timer. Normally I would reset each time I do not get Nightcrawler, but I'm just going to leave it running for this video. Alright. So we got a 1 in 6 chance, is what it should be anyway. You've got 6 starting characters, and I assume there's an equal chance of getting each one. Some have theorized that there's a way that you could lock in a character by holding down a specific button combination, but I have not seen that that's possible. So the reason we want Nightcrawler is for all the reasons you would expect. He's got great speed on the ground and in the air. He can climb walls and stick to walls, and he has a teleport. So all good things with a speedrun. In addition, there is a movement exploit that you'll see. See when I'm in the air, he like gets stuck in this animation. Well, not animation, in this single pose that looks kind of goofy. Right there. That's actually me locking in his horizontal movement speed. So instead of decelerating in the air, he just keeps zooming, which is super useful throughout the run. It's not difficult to do, but it takes some practice to get consistent at it. And as you do get consistent, your time in the speedrun will improve significantly. So there's the first stage. That movement technique is not, you're not able to perform it very well in these next few levels because the ceilings are so low. But there are other things you can do in these first couple stages to keep moving quickly. So throughout this stage, I have to destroy these electric boxes to open gates. A lot of them we will just hit through like a wall or a ceiling to save time. So there'll be one of those coming up. I can still kind of do that movement tech, but I bonk my head on the ceiling and I just get knocked back down to the floor, which is also fine. So there we go. Kicking through and saving some time. The nice thing about that movement tech too is that you can double jump out of it as well, in case you need to get a little extra height instead of horizontal distance. Another cool thing about this game is that it rewards aggression. You guys notice that I'm kind of just flying through here and kicking everything, right? If you successfully land a hit, the game grants you iframes, which is pretty cool. So even if you don't kill an enemy, as long as you land a hit, you don't take damage. For a very brief window. Oops. So I'm kind of mixing a couple of different kicks in there. One of them I'm jump kicking off the ground immediately. Other times I'm jumping in the air and then kicking. And that's because there's a subtle difference in the distance that you travel. And I'm trying to plan out my distances so that I'm lined up for my next attack on an enemy. So I get iframes and can just keep moving. So the jump with the delayed kick is a bit slower, but it's worth it not to get hung up on an enemy, you know? Okay, so at the end here, this is one of the few areas where you can kind of exit a level early by triggering this door from the ceiling here. Most of the rest of the game, let's see if I can get it. There it is. Most of the rest of the game, you really do just have to traverse the level as intended, but just do it quickly. Alright, first boss, Sentinel Core. We cheese almost every boss in this game, with a different variety of cheese for each boss. So, in this case, Nightcrawler is low enough to the ground that he can just duck under everything. Almost everything. And when he can't duck under, we just teleport through. And then upcoming next is the escape sequence, which is super anxiety-inducing when you're playing this game casually. easy to get lost, and no health power-ups or anything. So if you take hits, it's bad news. Although in the speedrun, we're going to intentionally take some hits to try to speed things up. Oops. Yeah, so I'll eat damage on a couple of these. Oops. So these flames are actually triggered by the position of the camera, and I kind of lined up poorly there, so I actually had to wait a little bit longer than necessary, but if you're careful with your movements, you can kind of control when they fire and when they don't, and make it so you can keep moving without much interruption. Alright, next up is Avalon. Things open up a little bit more, the ceilings are not as low. Typically these are fast and fun levels, if they go well, and they are among my favorite in the game, which is nice that they're so early. Because we play them a lot when we reset. So I'm doing that, as I said, that movement technique. When you see him lock in that pose with his one arm forward, yeah, I've got my horizontal speed locked in. And routing these levels was super important to find positions where you land in between enemies, because there's a lot of things that will shoot you. Kind of an ugly sequence. That's normally pretty cool if you line up properly. Alright, second boss. We'll kind of cheese this with Nightcrawler's power-up. So something I should have mentioned is that when you have yellow health or higher, which means you have full health or almost full health, your mutant abilities do double damage. Normally Nightcrawler's special is not a very reliable source for damage because the range is so low, but if you know where the enemy's going to be at all times, it's actually reasonable to line up and hit him with it. Alright, this falling stage is pretty interesting. You'll notice I'm jumping and kicking downwards. You have a pretty small window to do that. If you do it too soon, you just stomp your foot on the platform. If you do it too late, you miss your chance, and that happens, where you do this neutral fall. When you do get the kick downwards, it ends up being a game of chicken with the lasers, because it's how long can I hold it before I run into something, you know? It's important that I finish the stage with yellow health or higher, because Wolverine needs the damage boost for the next boss. Uh-oh. So we're still okay. I still have a little bit of safety health. But I'm going to focus here for a moment. We can still recover. So we're just going to go a little bit slower than normal. Okay. Well, the reason we want yellow health with Wolverine is that his special actually does quadruple damage instead of double, which is absurd. So we will try to use him on all the bosses that we can. And this fight is typically not too bad. It's a little scary that I have no extra health, but not the end of the world. Because again, it's a very predictable pattern, so... if I had lost this health, I would have switched over to Beast, who has double damage on all of his normal attacks, which is pretty cool. Alright, Magneto. I used to think that when I was a kid, I should say, I used to think that Wolverine's special, his mutant power was kind of lame, because it almost looked exactly like his normal attack. It's just jumping in the air and doing a swipe. So like, here's his normal attack, here's his special. Because I didn't know that you got quadruple damage. So I think it's way cooler now than I did. Alright. Pyramid Climb, or Fortress 1, I guess I call it. Super wide open level, so you can just go bananas with this movement technique, which is pretty fun. It's got one of the few elements in this game that I consider to be random, which is these falling rocks. And I would say they're probably pseudo-random in that if I were able to perform the inputs the exact same way every time, oh my gosh, the rocks would also probably fall in the same order, at the same place at the same time, but that would be very difficult to do, obviously. At the top of this, we're going to fight a boss named Tusk, and he is very goofy. His vulnerability window is very unusual. There are many times where you think you should be able to hit him, but you can't. I'm going to try to line up with a Nightcrawler and hit him with my teleport. It's going to require kind of a tricky timing, although it looks like I'm just mashing the button. It's careful positioning and timing. Okay, we made it through. So yeah, it's way harder than it looks. Alright, inside of the fortress. Super cool level. So in this, we're going to be dodging these giant spiked columns, pillars, and they do the most damage of anything in the game. Alright, so we're behind by 1 cycle. These move on a global timer, and if you can get ahead of them, you can save yourself some time, which is cool. Alright, so we got ahead of that one at least. So we're still 1 cycle behind of like optimal, but still not bad. Using the iframes on attacking that pillar to avoid taking damage. We might take damage there. Oh, alright, not bad. So normally, the correct way to do this is you'd be hitting these switches and changing the direction to avoid getting hit by these things. But with Nightcrawler, we can just teleport through or use the iframes, so that's kind of neat. Oops. We're going to sneak some safety health up here. And we're going to kill some of these mini tusks, because if you let too many of them on screen at the same time, you get horrible lag. So I find it's better just to plow through and kill some of them like that. It's important that I finish the stage with full health, because I need it all for the apocalypse fight. It's so easy to get hit by those tusks at the end. Alright. Wolverine. The reason we need full health is that he's going to send out these landmine-looking things, or sea mine-looking things. And I just eat the first couple of them to avoid waiting for them to finish their cycle. And you'll see what I mean in a second here. Normally you jump over them, or duck under them, and they take 3 laps around the center and then blow up. So we avoid waiting around by just eating the damage there. And the reason that level of health is so important is that we're able to heal back up to yellow health in time for actually fighting Apocalypse. Okay, not bad. That also requires careful positioning and timing, otherwise he goes into a different pattern and eventually retreats, and you have to go through that whole like bomb sequence again. Alright, Savage Land 1. These first couple Savage Land levels were kind of confusing to route for the speedrun. I mean, it's kind of confusing when you're playing casually, but trying to decide what's the best way to go in the speedrun was a bit difficult. And for a long time, I just kind of would get here and wing it, which is too bad. So I rerouted it sometime last year, oops, and it has helped quite a bit, I would say. Ended up saving some time I was absolutely missing out on before. It gets a little bit laggy because of all the stuff on screen, but still a pretty fun level. Nightcrawler's wall climbing helps a ton here. Oops. Alright. Not terrible. Savage Lands 2, very short level. Oops. So I was trying to face away there to keep the camera facing to the left to avoid those spike balls from activating. A lot of things in this game are activated by the camera. I may have mentioned that earlier, but if you are careful with which way you point the camera, you can kind of control when things are going to happen. Alright. Savage 3 and 4, both indoors. And the gimmick here is that there is poisonous green goop coming up from the floor. Another anxiety-inducing level casually, because you don't know where you're supposed to go. But in the speedrun, you probably will not see that goop at all. Oops. Okay, one of the first areas we will actually use the teleport to skip a section. You'd think we would do this more often, but Nightcrawler cannot teleport through walls, he can only teleport through open space. So, not as useful as it is in, say, like the X-Men 1 run for Genesis. We're going to abuse some iframes here, which is a super satisfying section. Because it looks like it's going to be a disaster with all those enemies, and you just plow right through it. Alright, I mentioned it earlier, and we actually do make use of Beast for one of the boss fights, because of his double damage. His attack is fairly fast, and as I said, powerful, and so it seems to work out better to use this than Wolverine. You can fight this boss with Wolverine. It actually, I think, typically ends up being a little bit slower and much more dangerous. Alright, on to the phalanx levels. These levels can be fun, but they are among the most difficult in the game. Especially the last two become the most difficult. Oh my gosh. So this level has gone under some rerouting and has been optimized a bit more in the last, like I said, year or so, which has made it quite a bit faster. And I think more fun to play. Some safety health here. And I love this shortcut coming up. Right there. We used to do that another way where we would climb on the ceiling, and it was a bit slower and I think a bit riskier. Alright, teleport glitch. Oh no. Ooh, I almost didn't get it. So, Nightcrawler has this weird thing that if you jump in the air, do a kick, teleport before hitting the ground, and hold kick as you exit the teleport, you become this continuous hitbox that anything that overlaps with you will get damaged. And for some reason this boss, he gets locked in place, and you can just kill him like that the whole time. Which is pretty cool, because that boss is normally a big pain in the butt. Alright, so now we're on a 2-minute and like 7-second elevator ride. As far as I know, there's not a way to make this faster. I wish we could skip it. In some ways, it'd be nice to cut out that time. However, if you are on good pace at this point in the run, it is a nice place to catch your breath, think about what you have coming up, and kind of review what your game plan is on the next couple levels, because they are difficult. At the end of this 2 minutes, there is a boss fight that typically should be very brief, but unfortunately, if you don't watch the timer carefully, you may get surprised at when, I think it's Deathbird enters. So I checked the timer when I got in here, I think it was 1808. So what do we need, 2015-ish we need to start worrying? These enemies that are spawning, it seems to me that they spawn in the same pattern each time. but the pattern is pretty long, like in the 20s or 30s. So you could memorize all this. I just haven't found the need to because it's not all that dangerous and they drop a ton of health. So if they didn't drop any health, memorizing would probably be necessary to avoid taking damage. But yeah, look at all this health. All right, 20 more seconds. Yeah, so if you get 2 hits off, you're in good shape. That was a little bit slow. Ideally, you hit her when she first enters, and then you hit her again before she even exits the frame. That is the most optimal, but it's pretty difficult to do. Alright, this level used to be a nightmare before it was rerouted. It's quite a bit better now, but still quite a difficult level. It's just so easy to take a ton of damage and just end up in a bad spot, and there's so much stuff to damage you here. I like that section. You just get right up in that one guy's face, but still avoid damage. Oops, accidental teleport. Alright, pretty good Phalanx 3. Alright, now to the final, I guess, full stage, is what I would call it. A series of short levels that are broken up by these falling sections. Again, very difficult and dangerous level. It's very easy to take a lot of damage. I need to get this health, though. Alright. Gotta pause for a second. Oh man, alright, we're gonna get some backup health. It's very important that I finish this level with full health or near full health. I need at least yellow. So, off to kind of a rough start, but there is a fair amount of safety health. It's just unfortunate that it takes some time to go get it. So, in a competitive run, you really would want to avoid all these health detours. But we will take them now, just to avoid disaster. Alright. Doing okay on health again, so we should be able to go back to normal. It's a good thing that we're Nightcrawl on this stage. Trying to do these falling sections as any other character is a nightmare, just because their hitboxes are so large. It's easy just to get eaten up by the barriers there. Oops, moved a little bit early. Yeah, there's just so much going on in these levels. Alright, one more section. If we can get out of there with yellow health, we're in great shape. Nope, I should get this. Okay, I got hit there at the end, but at least we have yellow health, which is very important for this brood fight. If I take a hit, this fight actually takes quite a long time, so let's hope I can get it this first try. Okay, that was a super close one. So you guys saw that when I jumped over the barrier, it rammed his head into the wall and exposes its weak point. I did a reverse hitbox there, so I was facing away from it, and I still was able to hit it with the hitbox behind me. The old strat was just to attack straight into him and take a hit. But when you have only one yellow health, that's not an option. So you have to do that reverse hitbox and avoid damage completely, which I do that even when I have full health. I actually prefer that strat. Okay, we have to fight clones of each of the X-Men now. Ideally, I keep yellow health throughout this entire sequence, but that can be quite difficult, so we'll see how it goes. So they'll die in 4 hits. I deliver the first and second hit somewhat spaced apart, but 3 and 4 has to happen very close together. If you're too slow, they will transform into these weird orb shapes and use a different set of attacks, which are slow and more difficult to dodge. So yeah, 1, 2, and then 3, 4 in quick succession. Gambit has long range, so he can be dangerous. Okay, that was great. Psylocke also has long range, we'll see here in just a little bit. Next up is Wolverine, who's difficult to get the first hit on because he's so low to the ground. I kind of goofed that up. If I take a hit there, it's bad news. Oh, alright, well, it's bad news. Ooh, I almost missed the last hit too. Alright, so we're gonna risk it with 1 health on Psylocke. We'll see what happens. Should be okay, but it is taking a risk. Okay, I'm gonna go grab a quick bit of safety health before we head into the Beast fight, because he is the hardest of all. I said Wolverine's low to the ground, but Beast is even shorter, so... Oh no, I took a hit again. Alright, let's go grab more health. So there's a few singles out here, which is enough to carry me through right now. If I need to, there's a big store of health you can get to. It just takes some time to get there. Oh, we got the quick kill on him. Okay, not bad. It's very difficult to get him in that pattern. A lot of times you end up missing the last one and you have to wait for the transformation, but pretty solid run for a commentary run. Sub 28, perfectly happy with that. So the current world record, I believe, is at 24:48 right now, and the previous world record before that was at 26:23. So to get a 27:44, well, talking about the game and trying to explain everything, yeah, perfectly happy with that. So as far as estimate, I would probably put it at 35 minutes, just to keep a little extra room for a marathon run. Because if I had failed to get yellow health on a few of those boss fights, they would have taken quite a bit longer. But yeah, pretty smooth run. There is so much to talk about this game that I couldn't fit it all in this single run. But if you are interested in learning more about the game or learning the speedrun, shoot me a message. I'd love to talk about it. And yeah, I think that about covers it. Yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll catch me running this in marathon soon. All right, see you guys.